What is going on, everybody? Holden here, back on the Alacare channel, and today we're going to be talking about the new LR Tech Carnival Broly from the 8th Dragon Ball Z movie, Broly the Legendary Super Saiyan. I don't know its Japanese name, but yeah, movie 8. Everybody knows this movie. It's the original Broly movie where Broly fights the Super Saiyan gang featuring Piccolo. It's a really good movie. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest reasons why I'm a fan of this show to begin with. But enough about the actual movie that this unit is made from. Let's talk about the unit, because that's what this video is about. I wanted to make a quick analysis video. I don't know how quick it'll be actually, but I just wanted to record a analysis of this character because I have changed a lot of my perceptions around him in terms of how I perceive the way that he needs help, and where I rank him on units. I at first, whenever the details dropped, I said he was contending for #1, but I wanted to wait. I said contending. I wanted to wait until we saw what else he gets to Celebration, and now that I've tested him in game, I can 100% definitively say that we need more buffs for this guy, and it's not really his fault. But that's what I wanted to cover in this video. After playing with this unit a lot, I've rainbowed him on my account, which you guys should know if you've seen my summon video. After using him and after running some numbers with him, which we will be getting to in a minute whenever we look at these posts right here, I have concluded that this guy is probably the single strongest individual unit averaged out throughout the whole fight. In the entire game. I feel like he's the strongest individual character excluding active turns. I mean, just like the most consistently powerful character in the game is this Broly. But the problem with that is that he is limited in the places where you can use him. And I also feel like there are some issues with his actual team itself. In its entirety, not just him or specific other units. I mean, like, the team as a whole is lacking a certain engine, I would say. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the strengths of this character. I feel like everybody should have already figured out by this point that this guy is more of a defense-oriented character. This is a unit that you're going to want to be running in slot 1 almost every single turn, barring a few, and only a few in certain events. And, you know, his base form is really good, but at the same time, I also feel like its sole purpose is literally just to help out with the same name problem, because as we are going to get into in a minute, there are 2 Brolys on their way, and a third one that we're highly anticipating to be on his way soon, that are all going to EZA, and they would have conflicted with Broly's name if he just started out as Legendary Super Saiyan Broly, or if he started out as Super Saiyan Broly. So I appreciate them using this opportunity to make the unit Broly, but it causes 2 problems. One, they decided to make this guy a 1-turn only kind of character. Now you can prolong it, and in certain events you actually do want to prolong it. I don't know how well you can get away with that. Maybe with a full dodge build you can kind of squeeze it out, but right now as his team stands, again we're going to talk about that later, as his team stands, I feel like you just have to transform him after his first turn is up in this form, because as you can see here, he actually, like, this whole passive right here is for 1 turn. So whenever the first turn is up, this is all he has right here. 200% defense, guard, and he can attack. So he's providing no damage, which is, you know, people like to pretend like, you know, not a unit not doing damage is, you know, it's fine, it's whatever. That's all well and good if you believe that. I don't really care. I'm not here to argue about, you know, beliefs and playstyles. What I am here to tell you is that a unit doing absolutely 0 damage while having the opportunity to change how much damage other units are doing, or without having the opportunity to later on a later turn drop an insane damage stat, if the unit doesn't have either of those 2 qualities, being a support or being able to build up to a very strong damage turn, and they do no damage, they're not good. At least they're not providing anything that will move the game state. They're just helping you kind of survive. And again, after this first turn, Broly is barely even doing that. He only has 2% defense and guard. That's it. That would have been good back in like 2021 and 2020, but like right now, that's not really enough. But you know, of course, that's not really that big of a deal because of course, as soon as he transforms, he turns into this guy. And this guy is, I mean, I'm just gonna be, you know, straight with y'all. This is the strongest character in the game. I said that at the beginning of the video, and I mean it. Okay, let's try that again. So, as I was saying, this guy is the strongest character in the game to me. So, let's go over some of his numbers. If you guys do not want to watch this part of the video, you can skip to the timestamp I have in the description. That's all I can really say. I like talking about numbers in this game. Some of these numbers you can actually see, these ones you can't because they're average, but these ones you can actually see because it's defense stats. So if you don't care about this shit, just skip ahead, it's fine. Like I said, I will have gameplay playing in the background, and a lot of what I base my rankings on is the gameplay. It's not necessarily about my calculations. That's just kind of more of a fun part of the game. So let's go over this. I have calced Beast Gohan, I've calced, you know, I've calced Tech UI Goku, didn't make a graphic for it though. I've calced APT Broly, Fizz Gogeta, all that jazz. And to me, none of them really feel as powerful as this guy in terms of the balance between defense and offense. So SCR Beast is pretty damn close. He feels very strong defensively, and he has some very strong offensive tech. But this guy right here ramps up incredibly fast. If we look down here to the turn 1 Berserker calc right here, right? He goes from 50 mil to 78 to 119. Right down here, even here, we don't have the turn 3 listed, but he goes from 41.9 mil, basically 42 mil APT. It's not that high, actually. You know, comparatively to APT Boy and Fizz Gogeta and SCR Beast, they're all higher turn 1. So this guy goes from 41.9, which again is just kind of modest, to 99 mil on turn 5. He just gets that high. Now, granted, Beast can have a turn 3 taunt where he's doing, you know, he has a very high attack stat, and APT, but that's just a taunt turn. This guy's active in domain are going to be live for the entire fight. Well, I mean, it's not his domain, it's APT Broly's, but they're going to be live for the entire fight. So he's just, like, every turn's going to be 100 mil APT plus. That's really nasty considering whenever we go over to his defense calcs, this guy is like indestructible. Like, I know, okay, sorry. I know that like 400, cause it says slot 1 pre and post super. This is the calc, right? So pre super in slot 1, he's at 450k. Post super in slot 1, he's at 1.47. Averaged out, of course. 450k is shit for a slot 1 unit, but you have to keep in mind that this guy is 50 through 76% DR and guard in slot 1, and that's a very disgusting combination. I want you to think of Beast Gohan and how strong he is in slot 1, and then I want you to realize that you have to get hit to be that good. You have to receive hits and build up to that level. Broly is just that good. There is no ifs. There is no caveats. He is just, you throw him slot 1 and he just face tanks it. As he should. They designed him perfectly. Now, once we start talking about like Goku and Frieza and like the STR Bulma and all that stuff, yeah, if he's only got the 50% DR live, he's not gonna be living that. Now, if he has the 76% live, then yes, 100% this Broly is going to be able to just devour even those 5 mil supers. And if it's after he attacks, like if they super him after he gets to super in slot 1, forget about it. Like literally nothing's going to be able to touch this guy. Especially whenever we start talking about when he has his active and the domain up. He's at damn near 700k start of turn defense with 50 through 76% DR and guard. And then whenever he supers, he's over 2 mil defense in slot 1. With over 100 mil APT, which I know that doesn't translate too well for you guys. I want you to imagine like this guy for attack stats, whenever we're talking about those like 100 mil turns, we're talking about him throwing out 25.6 mil attack stats, then a 16 mil additional, then another 16 mil additional, and they all have a 50% chance to crit. Like that, this is nuts, okay? I want you guys to understand this is a level of power that we don't really get to see often every turn. This is a level of power that you get to see maybe after you built up long enough, maybe after you've built up enough hits, maybe whenever you pop this active skill that's only going to last one turn. No, this guy does this every turn once you get that domain and active skill live, which again, the active skill you can get as soon as turn 3, domain you can get as soon as turn 5. If all goes well for the domain, right? That's really powerful. And that's why I feel like this guy, he's just like the strongest unit in the game individually, without accounting for taunts, with revives and ushers and all that stuff. Just sheer stats monster, that is what this Broly is. He is just pure stats, and it's very strong, and it helps his team a lot because they need this. They need that slot 1. They need him to be offensively dominant like he is. Like, he's not the most offensively dominant character, but my God, once he gets going, he's going. Like, does he need to build up his offense? Yeah. So maybe the build-up point that I said earlier wasn't exactly true, but the build-up for it is, do you have his active live? Yes. Do you have the domain up? Yes. Okay, he's good to go for the rest of the fight, which isn't going to be that long because this guy's partner is AGL Broly, the strongest individual offensive character besides AGL First Form Frieza, who is homeless. So, with that said, what is the problem with this guy? Why don't I have him at number 1 if he's just that strong? Besides, Beast having taunts and all that jazz, I really don't care too much about taunts. I don't think they change the game too much if the rest of the team is able to take the hits. Now, in the case of Beast Gohan, they're really not able to. Sometimes they are. Like superheroes, I mean, honestly, if we're talking about team composition as a whole, superheroes is like the closest we'll ever get to the entire team being able to survive the biggest boss supers and whatnot. So, we're close. But honestly, I would say taunts are very valuable because of the fact that Dokkan has not balanced out the whole team. Dokkan is very top heavy, and it's always kind of been that way, except for, of course, again, superhero. That's like the only exception. To me, it's like been the only exception. I guess the closest I could ever come back to that is like extreme 3-key 50% stats team, like AGL Rose way back when in 2016. That's an old reference, but yeah. So with that said, if you want to argue taunts above, making Beast better than Broly and Cell Max better than Broly and all that shit, sure. But I think the real reason why this guy is not better than Beast and not better than Cell Max, to the large majority of players, at the end of the day, nobody gives a shit about this shit. None of this matters. All of these units are very good. But, if we were to, rank these guys in our heads, because that's the only place that you actually can rank them, because, rankings don't really matter. Every unit is very strong. But to me, what would make Broly better and feel more competitive with the top tier units in the game right now for PvE is if the units around him were stronger. Now, some of the characters around Broly are really damn strong. Like, S tier Turles is pretty damn strong. S tier Cell Max is in contention for best unit in the game, and AGL Broly is very, very strong and highly underrated, especially now that Tech Broly exists. But I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about Harudagard. I'm talking about Broly Chi-Line Limo. I'm talking about Turles without his full DR up. Those guys are the ones that we have to be a little bit more cautious of, I guess you could say. Because, as good as Teen Turles can be sometimes when their full DR is up, you also have to keep in mind that they're only getting their Big Bad Bosses link live, which they need desperately defensively. They're only really getting that live next to Broly Chi-Line Limo or Cell Max. And speaking of those two units, Cell Max is great, but he's only really getting Big Bad Bosses from Turles or Broly Chi-Line Limo, and Broly Chi-Line Limo are great if they had an orb changer. Well, okay, excuse me. You also are getting Bebe Bosses from Hurrigan, who can't take normals, can't do damage, and has to dodge to be able to live. Which isn't about, it's not a problem. He's int, so you can have over 30 dodge. But even still, the chances of him getting hit are not 0. Like, he's going to get hit, and whenever he gets hit, sometimes it's pretty damn nasty. And he doesn't exactly mesh the best with Broly. So that's where we come into talking about the rotations. Now, because Hurrigan doesn't mesh well with Broly, you kind of don't want to float him because he'd just be a dead, oh, I hope he dodges unit. So what I've seen a lot of people running is I've seen them running the Tech Broly and AGL Broly rotation, obviously. It's the best rotation on this team. And then another rotation that people are running is STR Cell Max and Int Hurrigan. Now, that's kind of fun and quirky, but the fact that we have to run a unit from New Year's who isn't even that strong anymore next to Cell Max just to have a stable rotation because Broly doesn't have another unit that actually shares a lot of links with him that is strong enough to warrant being on rotation with him is not good. Like, that's not a good thing. Which is why I feel like it's hard to talk about Broly in comparison to the other top tiers. Cell Max is the most similar case I can get, while also still just being a little bit different because it's more so like Cell Max has the units there around him, but like it's one of those cases where he'll never have a unit that fully, unlocks his true potential because his links are just so weird, and his teams are just they're not really built around taking out his full potential. This is as close as it's going to get for him. And Beast, he's surrounded by like the top 10 units in the game are basically all on Beast Gohan's team. So whenever we look at Broly and we notice that his team isn't as strong as Beast Gohan's team, and he himself doesn't look as powerful on like Super Giga Wang turns as Cell Max, it's perfectly understandable why some people have those units over Broly. I haven't even started talking about the SSJ trio, who their problem is teams too. But they, even with that problem, they make their team stronger. Broly doesn't necessarily make his team stronger, except for turn 1. Broly's gimmick is just being strong for his team in a way that enables the other units to kind of just hide behind him, only in the manner of slot 1 being taken away and not being a worry anymore, like it was on movie bosses for God knows how many years. Broly solves that issue. So what can we do to fix this? What can Dokkan do to make this unit's team a little bit stronger to really propel him and let him start to shine amongst the other top tiers? Well, one of those things that they're already planning on doing and have already told us they're going to do is easy-Aing a bunch of these units. And part 2 could be another LR Broly, but because of last year having 2 superclass units, and because of the year of 2022 being kind of an exemption, really, in terms of them continuing the theme-ish with another major villain, I don't really want to hold my breath for another LR Broly. So instead, I'm just going to look at EZAs and see if we can kind of patch in some holes on this team here to really let Broly spread his wings. One of those units that they announced was going to EZA, it's actually the only unit that they've announced was going to EZA, is Int Broly. Int Broly is very powerful. Honestly, unfortunately though, he's probably the weakest Broly that they've ever released, premium Broly wise. Every other Broly on release is probably way stronger than this guy was on release. Not to say that this guy wasn't strong, this guy was very strong. It was just that his team didn't exist yet whenever it came out. It wasn't really there. It came into fruition whenever, some other buffs came around, specifically AGL Kid Gohan. But enough about that. Let's look at his kit. So he has basically just this. This is his full stat boost in kit. And then on super attack, he stacks attack and defense by 20% and causes immense damage. So the way that his unit is designed, or this unit is designed, is that he has 1 guaranteed additional. That's a 30% chance to be a super. And then the rest of his buffs are if he's facing a hybrid or a pure Saiyan enemy. Now, with Red Zone, this is a totally achievable and a totally fulfillable condition to get off these additionals and to get this crit chance and this damage reduction on all that jazz. This isn't hard to do anymore, okay? This isn't going to be hard, especially after we get more stages of the new Supreme Battle Spectacle or whatever it's called. I don't remember what it's called. Once we get more stages of that for the new Movie Hero stage or version of that event, this is going to be very easy to fulfill. But with that said, this unit needs to get some stats that calculate in the second phase and multiply into his start of turn stats, and his start of turn stats just need to be higher. Honestly, if you ask me, I feel like this needs to go up too, unless they make his additionals a guaranteed additional super maybe, or make them high chances or great chances, because he needs to stack more per turn. I mean, if we're looking at his stats, I mean, he's got some good stats, but they're not like terrific. Even, I mean, obviously they're going to go up whenever he EZAs, but like, even with high stats, just this low passive buff is really, you know, it doesn't look too spectacular for him if they don't change basically his whole kit. Now, is that something to worry about? No, not really. I feel like this guy is going to be one of the greatest EZAs of all time, because whenever we look at his kit, again, it's designed in a way to combat content that we know we're about to receive and that we know is going to be difficult. And that is spectacular. They need to design units that way. And also, another big contributor to why this guy's going to be one of the best EZAs ever, if they make his EZA strong enough, which I have faith that they will, is because of this. 6 links with base Broly, and 5 links with LR transform Broly, and 6 links with Tech LR Broly. That is nuts, especially considering Tech LR Broly is probably going to EZA this celebration too. And look at the teams that he's on. He's on all these teams. He's on AGL Full Power Broly's team. He's on the new Broly's team, you know, and he's also on that new category right here, Uncontrollable Power, which I believe is probably going to be on a Part 2 LR Broly. But again, I'm not holding my breath because I don't have faith in Nakatsuki after last year whenever they gave us Future Gohan instead of Goku Black. So with that said, though, this guy is shaping up to be a really hard hitter for the Tech Broly team. But what do we want out of this guy? What do we want out of this unit? What role is he going to fulfill on this team to make him actually solve the Tech Broly problem? What I want this guy to be, I want him to be a very dominant, invincible Slot 2 character. And that's the way that he's built up right now anyway. Right now, he gets all this damage reduction and all this crit, so but he still needs to attack because he has to stack up. If they build him correctly, this guy can just become a Slot 2 anchor for Tech LR Broly, and he can start to rack up that damage, and then he'll have that one big turn where he gets the 6 key, the 60% attack, and the super effective. And hopefully they make it easier to achieve, because performing 4 supers way back then was impossible. Now it's not so bad, but again, we are hoping that his additionals get buffed a little bit. And if they do that, if they make this guy a strong Slot 2, he doesn't have to be the best damage dealer ever, though I will say it would be preferred if he did great damage, because honestly, this team wants to move as fast as possible because of the fact that Broly's DR does kind of run out towards the end of the fight. It's never really a big problem because none of the hardest bosses in the game except Bulma really have a super that can damage him, because Goku and Frieza do, but they're most likely just going to die from AGL Broly plus this Broly going full power. You know, like those guys going full power and crushing Goku and Frieza easily could one-turn that final phase. So this guy, we don't really need him to hit hard, but it would be nice. Obviously, he's going to have that huge turn from his active skill, but he needs to be defensively sound. And if he does that, I could easily see us losing Hirudegarn or losing Broly, Chilai, and Lemo. Honestly, I would say that Broly, Chilai, and Lemo would be the one that I would kick off of this team after in Broly EZAs, just because of them not being able to have an orb changer, and it really does put a damper on, or a hamper, I don't know what the word actually is, I'm gonna be real. It really does like hurt Tech Broly that Fizz, Broly, Chila, and Lemo are just kind of like stuck in this state of, oh, do I have the orbs whenever the rotation starts? Can I build up the orbs? Is there a way for me to manufacture these orbs that they need? And if there's not, then they suck and they can't live anything. They won't be able to survive a turn. Their support that they're providing will not make up for the damage that you're losing having them on the team instead of a better unit. So that's gonna be a issue, I would say, and one of the biggest reasons why you would want to lose this character over, say, again, Broly, who again will mesh just perfectly with Tech Broly. He'll have hopefully great defense in slot 2, and it will have that really big damage turn on his active skill turn. He also has Berserker, and Berserker will be very easy to achieve whenever the 26% extra DR wears off from Tech Broly. And when Berserker goes live, these guys hit really, really hard. I mean, like, really, really hard. Like, they do a lot of damage, guys. Like, a lot. But this unit right here is not the only unit that we know is going to EZA. No. See, in the shop, whenever they gave us Redstones, one of the characters in the Redstone shop, or some of the characters in the Redstone shop, are the super EZAs that we've been receiving. HL Dragon Fist Goku is in there, Physical Kid Buu is in there, Physical Goku Black is in there, and Tech Gotenks is in there. And they're all one Redstone. This guy, right here, is also in the shop for the Red Dragonstone, and he's primed for a Super EZA, and he cost 2 Redstones. I wonder why the one that hasn't Super EZA'd yet costs 2 Redstones. It's probably because he's gonna Super EZA soon, and they don't want players, to be able to get a lot of copies of this guy. That makes sense, doesn't it? So let's talk about what STR Broly brings to the table. Now, I don't know if the fight is going to be designed this way. With Tech Broly's kit, I think it's a possibility. But there is a very high chance that one of the battles from Supreme Magnificent Battle or Supreme Battle Spectacle, whatever it's called, I don't know what it's called, the Blue Zone, basically, there's a very high chance that one of those fights is going to be a multiple enemies fight. And the reason why I say that, again, is because this super attack right here is an AoE, okay? And there, wow, that's nice, thank you. I totally appreciate ads just randomly playing. Yeah, so this guy has an AoE, and another EZA that we're going to be talking about that we're probably going to get right here, this guy has buffs against multiple enemies. So, very high chance that we're going to be seeing fights with multiple enemies. Never guaranteed with Dokkan because they have their heads up their asses sometimes. But it is something to consider. And if we do get fights with multiple enemies, this guy is designed for that. He introduced AoEs to the game. He is the progenitor of all enemies damage, and that is this dude's purpose. That was what he was designed for. That's what he was introduced for. He was the best World Tournament unit for God knows how long. This guy was also the very first Dokkan Festival TUR in the game. Like the very first one. Very first TUR period in Dokkan. There's a lot of respect that needs to be put on this unit's name. And his kit isn't exactly the most amazing thing ever. I mean, supreme damage is pretty bad, even if it's an AoE. Thankfully, he does raise his attack by 50% for 3 turns. So it does rack up to be about where Immense level 15 would be. You know, the Supreme 15 plus essentially 100% attack does get kind of close to Immense. Never really hits that level, though, unfortunately. Even still, I would say that this guy could hit very hard. I mean, the passive that he has right now is attack and defense plus 80% when attacking. Just for clarification, this is attack and defense when attacking that he has right here. This is the type of buff that like multiplies into support, right? So let's say that, you know, hypothetically speaking, if this guy did have a team with the SSJ trio who gives 77% defense, you would calculate his defense by doing 77% times 80%. So he's already off to a good start. Okay, and he has an AoE, so if we do get an AoE fight, this guy could be very, very strong for said fight. And if we look at his links here, what does he have? 5 links with base Broly, 4 links with LR transformed Broly. And he has 5 links with Tech LR Broly. Like, we're looking kind of good here. Now, does he share that many links with AGL Full Power Broly? No, he doesn't really share that many, but that's not that big of a deal because, again, we're mainly looking at Tech Broly here. I foresee that this unit's going to be a very powerful burst damage character. And I'm kind of hoping that the way that they design this guy is to tailor make him for multiple enemies fights and then drop like a new hardest fight in the game that has like 4 enemies that you have to take down. That would be a very good role. Now, where would this guy fit into the overall Tech Broly team? I honestly think that he would probably kick off Rudigarn at a certain point. It would really help if we had floaters on this team that were actually powerful, because if you kick off Rudigarn and you kick off Broly, Chile, and Limo for Int Broly and STR Broly right over here, then that means that STR Turles is going to be able to have his full damage reduction live, which means that you could still main rotation Turles and Cell Max, but honestly, if you want to, I would actually use them as floaters, change my mind, and then have Int Broly and STR Broly, one of those two, on rotation with the other Tech Broly that isn't being taken up by AGL Broly. So that would be good. Those are the 2 EZAs that we know for a fact are coming. I mean, I guess we don't know for sure that this unit is on his way, but given the Redstone thing, we kind of are sold on it. And again, when I'm looking out of this guy, I'm not looking for him to tank supers in slot 2 like I am with Int Broly. I'm expecting this guy to tank supers. I'm just looking for him to tank normals and be a very high damage output character who is somewhat designed for multiple enemies fights if we get those fights. That's what I'm looking for out of this guy. Now, the next unit, again, has not been announced, but I would be stunned if he didn't EZA, is my old favorite unit of all time. Probably still, I mean, he still is. Like, Broly's been out for like literally, what, like a few days? Like, this guy is still my favorite unit of all time, and that would be Tech LR Broly, the original one, Nightmarish Impact, the one that I have a Gmail named after, for Christ's sake. This guy is probably going to EZA in part 2. That's my suspicion. And this dude was the original hardest hitting SBR unit in the game. And the crown that he took that from was Tech Goku and Frieza, who took that from STR Broly. Actually, you know what? No, scratch that. I'm pretty sure STR Broly still hit harder than this guy until turn 3. So, well, maybe this guy did hit harder than STR Broly. And then STR Broly EZA'd, and then he took the spot from him again. But, in an era where SBR was, like, not the hardest thing anymore, it was LGE, but SBR was still very difficult. This unit right here was God. I mean, you could not beat Resurrected Warriors without this guy. You could not beat Extreme Tech without this guy. Especially whenever ESBR came around, like, this was your only damage dealer. You were not killing those enemies in Extreme Tech ESBR unless you had Tech LR Broly. I mean, it was impossible. It was impossible. He was known for his damage. Literally, in the next year after his release, because he came out in 2019, in 2020, the 5th anniversary release, and they literally just made Tech Broly again in Int Rose. And whenever they did it, a lot of people said that they did it better. I think they did it worse. Int Rose did less damage than this guy, and at the same time had worse team setups. This guy was being ran next to STRLR Broly way back in the day in SBR. You would pop an item anyway because, God forbid, their teams actually were able to survive in no item content. They literally couldn't for some of the stages. Like, for example, Resurrected Warriors was really hard to no item that ESPR whenever it first came out. It was very difficult. But if you wanted to beat the SBR like a normal person and you wanted to speed run the event, you know, say like a non-normal person like me, this rotation with STRLR Broly, strongest rotation in the game for Super Battle Road. And even to this day, it's still one of the strongest rotations. Like, it's just that strong. And they tried to replicate that with Int Rose. They couldn't really get it off the ground because his team was really just not that good. And he wasn't that good. Like, defensively, he was a little bit better than Tech LR Broly, but not by that much. And he didn't have that dominant turn 3 like Broly did. This guy's turn 3, let's look at it, shall we? I want y'all to look at this. Can be activated after transformation. Key plus 24, attack was 48% for 1 turn. On this unit back in 2019. This guy came out with Go Bros. The unit that takes forever to build up and needed a support character to be really good. They were the second best unit in the game, by the way. But that character came out with this guy. A guy who in Super Battle Road just absolutely destroyed Go Bros. It wasn't even comparable. This unit is the Super Battle Road Slayer, the Extreme Tech ESBR King. This Broly right here is the reason that so many players were able to topple down some of the hardest missions in Dokkan, period. You thought Red Zone Broly was hard? He really was. Dude, try doing Extreme Tech ESBR. Okay? Try doing that shit as a non-whale player. Okay, you fucking couldn't. It was that hard. It was impossible. It really was, unless you had this guy and preferably with dupes. So whenever we talk about his EZA, there's really only one way that you're going to go about doing this EZA. You have to EZA him and make him be a damage dealer. You have to. He has to be APT LR Broly second coming. He has to just be this insane DPS god. I don't care about the multiple enemies thing right here. You can leave that in, keep that in. In fact, enhance it, but make sure that his single enemy damage is through the roof. Give him an unconditional additional super. Okay, none of this one enemy shit, none of this two enemy shit. Give him an unconditional one additional super. Make his one additional super that he gets against one enemy, make it guaranteed. Make his multiple enemy ones, make them 2 supers. Fuck it, make him do 3 additional supers against multiple enemies. Make him do 2 additional supers against one enemy. Make him have crit against one. Make him have just the additional supers against 2, all of that jazz. I don't care how you do it. I want this man to do damage and tank normals. That's all I need. I don't care if he dies to a super, because there's not going to be a super. The enemy's going to be fucking dead in the ground, and I'm going to be standing over their grave giving their eulogy, okay? That's what this Broly needs to be. Again, I expect him to come out in part 2. Who is he going to kick off this team? It's really hard to say. I could honestly see him kick off Cell Max if he's that strong. If he is basically just doing Cell Max's damage, but without the link issue, I could easily see him taking Cell Max off, and then us just running a full Broly team with Team Turles being our support floater. And honestly, that's totally fine. Once we get to talking about this Tech Broly's team, you know, with these key players put into their spots, into their little locks, their little holes that are currently on Tech Broly's team, that's when we start to really talk about him being beast level, him being Cell Max level, him being SHA Trio level. Whenever Tech Broly has units around him that are good, he will be insane. It's kind of like the reverse. It's kind of like the reverse of AGL Frieza, where AGL Frieza is the best unit around him, but you don't want that. You want the opposite. You want him to be like the 3rd best unit on the team, as the Truth likes to say all the time. You don't want him to be the star of the show, because offensively, that's where he's good at, is being the star, but defensively, he's not. He doesn't really carry the team in the way that you'd want him to defensively, which is fine. Whereas Broly is able to carry the team defensively. He's able to carry the team offensively even. But he needs players around him even still. Like, he can carry hard right now. You can beat every fucking event in the game right now with this guy, no items. You can do it. I've done it. Other people have done it. It's not impossible. But for him to be in GOAT conversations, as you like to say in sports, for example, we just need these core players, and I am sure that we're going to be getting them, and I will be running this unit and testing this guy out in some events and dropping some videos testing this unit out. I'm very excited to start creating content around gameplay instead of just doing summons like I was doing. I moved into a new place, going off topic a little bit here, moved into a new place with the rest of my family. We have internet now, like actual internet, so that's why my upload schedule has been a little bit on the rise, I guess you could say, even though there were some breaks because I had some really bad personal stuff go down after we moved in. But what I'm getting at is that I'm able to make content now in a way that isn't too bad. Like, I'm able to pump it out as fast as I want to, when I want to, how I want to. And I'm going to just be really focusing on trying to make the most out of this new internet and trying to make more content for you guys. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this type of video, this analysis breakdown of a unit, of the unit's problems, of what the unit needs to really succeed. Again, this Broly's really good. On some other setups, I could see him being good. Unfortunately for him, he's not really on the SSJ Trios team. That kind of does suck. But he is on AGL Full Power Broly's team, who I don't have pulled up here. Let's pull him up real quick. And AGL Full Power Broly's team is insane. I would say it's better than this Tech Broly's team right now. Like, it just straight up. You know, having Beast, you know, Gohan there, having SSP Vegeta there, all that jazz, just makes this guy's team very strong. And, you know, this Broly only helps AGL Broly. Now AGL Broly has a combination with Beast, and now he has a combination with Tech Broly on his team. So that team is nuts. So, I mean, Tech Broly, he's only really got his own team, and then he's got, you know, the GOATS team, my other favorite unit from this year. And outside of that, that's really about it. So that's why I'm talking so much about his own team, because as soon as we get that off the road, I mean, now we're off to the races. Now, of course, in part 2, again, we could see Uncontrollable Power get a leader, because why would they introduce a new category without having a new leader? That would be kind of weird. So I feel like there's a high chance that part 2 could be another LR Broly, and if it is, I'd probably just jizz right there in my pants. But, you know, getting a little bit off topic here. Again, let me know if you guys enjoyed this type of video. It was kind of like, you know, unscripted. I didn't really, you know, I didn't have anything all typed out and wanted to talk about this, and that. I mean, the calc session, I tried to spend as least amount of time on it as possible, because I know nobody gives a shit about that except for me. And, oh, I didn't even get to talking about this. Yeah, if this is part 2, not the worst thing ever, because if we look here, he shares exactly 2 links. So it's not the worst, you know? It could be worse. It could be 0. Please don't let this be part 2, man. Let it be like a banner unit that's like super cracked, that has Prepared for Battle, Saiyan Lineage, and Berserker, and Fierce Battle. That would be great. You know the problem with that is, though? This motherfucker does not have Prepared for Battle. He just doesn't have it. I don't know why. I mean, I guess he wasn't prepared for battle. He was a bio android, right? Like, he wasn't really. I guess he wasn't prepared. I mean, but at the same time, like, he's made for battle, so like he should be prepared for. Like, they made him. He was engineered for it. You know, if he's like, you know, LR Part 2 Broly is like movie 10 Dokkan Fest, and then like his banner unit is Bio Broly that has a giant form, that'd be kind of cool, and that would help out this team, because this team doesn't have like a team protector ability, I guess. Like, it has Cell Max, but that's only on like turn 6. So I mean, like, if we do end up getting the return of the demon Bio Broly, if he comes back as a banner unit with a giant form, I feel like that could really help out this team. But I don't think the team needs it if they build it the way that I said they should build it, because the team is just going to be moving so fast, and it's going to be taking all the supers front end anyway. But yeah, that's really it for this one. I think I've hit all the topics I wanted to cover, even though, like I said, this was kind of like, you know, unscripted. Not kind of, I mean, it just was. Like, I thought about what I wanted to talk about before we recorded the video and sat down about it. But these are just my thoughts on the character after I've used him over the last 24 hours, 48 really. And just, you know, after me using him, after me doing the numbers, after me looking at all the potential EZAs we can get, after, you know, postulating that, hey, what if we do get a movie 10 Broly as part 2? That could be cool. A Bio Broly with a giant form, like all that stuff. I really do think that if the buffs that we talked about here today, even, you know, since we didn't, you know, cover part 2 being a movie 10 LR Broly, or just a Broly in general, because I didn't want to get into things that I could not guarantee would happen. Even with just the EZA buffs that we talked about, it is totally possible for this guy, to me, to be on that GOAT tier. But just because his team is just really behind, I would say I kind of don't have him there right now. Even though I think he himself is like that beast level, that tech UI transformed level, that, you know, STR Cell Max taunt turn level. Like he is that guy. He is. We just need these buffs, and I think once we get them, this guy's gonna be great. So hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too long. I don't know. I'm gonna have to edit this video together. Yeah, again, just let me know if you want to see more content like this, and I hope you guys are enjoying Broly. Hope your summons are going well, and I hope you guys are ready for part 2. I'm excited because we're pretty much guaranteed to get LR Family Kamehameha. One of my favorite moments in all of Dragon Ball is finally going to get the respect that they deserve a second time with better animations. So excited to see that, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, bye-bye.